Thank you. Now I request Shri Suresh Prabhu ji. Please brief.
Sir, I given a notice for disapproval of the ordinance that was issued. Though I broadly support the contents of the bill, I really fail to understand why there was a need for issuing an ordinance on 4th of February. I just heard the statement of the minister that it was issued because to protect the interests of the farmers who were agitating, who were demanding the dues for the cane supply to the sugar factories, and there was a law and order problem. The factories would have failed to start the crushing season, and therefore he had to do it. Sir, if I can recall, the last session of the parliament ended in last week of December, almost close to that. And therefore, the bill of this type could have been introduced in the last session of the parliament rather than issuing an ordinance. So I always feel that ordinance should be used as the rarest of the rare occasion, because ordinance takes away the right of the parliament to decide on an important issue like this. And if the ordinance is issued, it's like a fait accompli for the parliament to really convert it into a law. So therefore I really oppose the promulgation ordinance, and therefore I given the notice. Sir, there is already a huge agrarian crisis engulfing our rural India. We have been worried about the fact that agriculture production is dropping. We are also worried that yields are falling, that farmers are not getting remunerative prices, as a result of which the production is not increasing at the rate at which we want it. It is also threatening our food security and creating a lot of other economic issues. As we discussed the other day, the share of agriculture in GDP has fallen to 18.5% now. So we need many ways to tide over this. One of the ways we thought of doing it is to do agro-processing. We thought that agriculture production need not be just sold in the market in the primary form, but it should be processed. And therefore the farmer then will be able to get a value for not just the produce that he is selling, but also for the finished product which will be sold in the market as an agro-processed good. It is also true that in India almost more than 30% of our agriculture production is lost because of not being processed adequately. And therefore sugar is one of the very important agro-processed products. And that's what we really started doing it many years ago. And in a way, we are successful in that. But we always have faced a problem in sugar industry. And therefore, sugar industry needs a different type of a treatment. Sir, it is true that sugar passes through cyclical form. Every 3 years, 4 years, the production increases so much that the prices fall. The prices fall, therefore the farmer don't plant sugarcane in the next following season. Then over a period of time, again the production falls, the prices go up, and then again we have to provide such incentives. So I think this is a time that we really need to think about revitalizing sugar industry in not just in form of this, which I'll come to it, but also in the form of making sure that is cyclability through which the sugar industry always gets affected. How do you get over that is something the government must see, and for that probably we need to look at the possibility of making the cropping pattern change, give proper notice to the farmers that you don't plant so much, so we'll not have a problem. We also really need to look at, for some time we are thinking that probably we can import to tide over the problem, but that's not a solution because we need our own agriculture production. So government must think about a long-term sustainable nature of making sure that sugar industry will not pass through these phases like many other industries who pass through such cyclical form. So this particular bill seeks to amend Section 4 of the Sugar Development Fund Act. Sir, it was passed in 1981. In 1982, we amended this act to bring buffer stock as one of the qualifying items to receive the funds from this. In 2002, it was amended for exporting the sugarcane and for that to provide internal transport and support like that. And then we also amended it for cogeneration and for alcohol and ethanol. But sir, the first time we are amending this act for the purpose of paying money for the sugar factories to run their operations. So this is actually the law, the act which was passed primarily for strengthening the sugar factories, to do research and development, to increase the profitability, to bring in some sort of a capital expenditure. Though as I mentioned earlier, we also mentioned some revenue expenditure. but to pay for actual working capital of the sugar factories by paying from the sugar fund is something which I think really defies the very purpose for this act. And therefore, we should really try to find out how we can use this sugar fund to make sure that the sugar factories are strengthened on a long-term basis rather than paying for the revenue expenditure, which will not be in the long-term interest of this country. So I was talking about making sure that sugar industry itself is revitalized. So we had an economic survey which was presented to the Parliament on 28th of February, and in which we have seen that Finance Minister talking about decontrol of the sugar industry. Is it something which I would like to know from the Minister, who probably is one of the few persons in the country who knows sugar industry on the palm of his hand? I don't think there are many people who know this, who like to know from the Minister what is the long-term plan. Are we thinking about decontrolling the sugar industry, which is what is mentioned in the economic survey? And if it is so, then is this a solution of providing from what sugar fund? Is this a solution to that problem? We really need to know about it. Sir, the other issue is to increase the amount of money from 15 rupees to 25 rupees to augment the sugar fund. Sir, it is absolutely required that we need support for the sugar industry. There is no doubt about it, no questions about it. But who should fund that support? Whether it should from consumers or it should come from the government. I think government has to provide for it and should not levy this type of charges on the consumers to make that happen. And therefore, I really think that government now should really focus on how to diversify the portfolio of sugar industry. Sir, Brazil is one of the largest producers of sugar in the world. And Brazil popularized one of the great biofuels called ethanol in a long-term basis, which is now blended worldwide into the fuel we use for transportation. I think ethanol is something which is now become one of the principal source of revenue for the sugar industry in Brazil. We really need to do something like this in India to make sure that sugar industry in India stands on a long-term footing on a basis that will not suffer such type of cyclability, and that is what is really required to be done. Sir, I know Cuba used to be once upon a time the largest producer of sugar in the world. What happened after a few years of the so-called new regime that was there, but now there is a change of regime in Cuba as well. Fidel Castro's brother has taken over. He's already talking about opening up. Suppose, sir, for example, Cuba starts investing more into sugar industry. They start bringing more sugar into the market. What's going to happen to the world market? That also we really need to look at. And probably we need to be careful about drawing our strategies about sugar industries in future. Sir, sugar industry in India and predominantly in Maharashtra is controlled by cooperatives. And that's a very welcome thing, because cooperatives ensure that farmer gets a share into also the produce crop that goes into the sugar. So therefore he is not getting only the sugar cane price, but he is also getting part of the profit that sugar mill make in terms of selling the sugar. But cooperatives generally in India are suffering a great deal these days. We need to revitalize the cooperatives. We need to bring the spirit of cooperative which drove this movement a great deal many years ago, and therefore we need to find out how the cooperatives themselves can be revitalized. If that doesn't happen, then probably the structure through which the sugar industry operates will not also get cooperated. So therefore this is something which we will need to do. So therefore I support the bill. I feel that this is some sort of a support is required for sugar industry, but I sincerely hope and wish that the minister, as I said earlier, one of the most qualified person to look into these issues, will be able to apply himself to make sure that sugar industry is properly revitalized. Thank you, sir.
Shri